Well, from the locker room to lockup, fired Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore now being charged with 3 crimes, including felony home invasion. Live pictures to the courtroom right now in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's happening at the moment. Let's listen.
Our victim broke up with this defendant on Monday morning early. That there continued to be defendant making numerous phone calls and sending numerous texts from that time moving forward that she did not answer, did not respond to, and did not want. That eventually she presented herself to the University of Michigan, cooperated in some form of investigation there. As we all now know, defendant was at some point on Wednesday afternoon fired from his employment. He then, at some point soon thereafter, came to her apartment in the address that is alleged in the complaint, barged his way into that apartment, immediately then proceeded to a kitchen drawer, grabbed several butter knives and a pair of kitchen scissors, and began to threaten his own life.
I can hear it.
I'm going to kill myself.
Okay, it's sort of hard to hear the audio from court, but basically what we were hearing as we're looking at live pictures here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, of the University of Michigan former football coach Sherrone Moore. The accusations we're hearing from court that he actually showed up, barged into this apartment, grabbed some kitchen knives from a drawer. Allegedly, this was the apartment of this staffer he was having an affair with, where he threatened her. We are now learning he has been charged. We're hearing all this in real time now with 3 crimes, including felony home invasion. It sounds like the attorney there describing that charge in detail. You may remember Coach was fired on Wednesday over what cops say is credible evidence that he engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. That's according actually to the university. And then hours later is when he was detained by police, and now he is going before the judge. Let's bring in our investigative reporter, Olivia Rubin, also legal analyst Brian Buckmeyer. So, Olivia, everything happening here in real time. I don't know if you could hear it very well, as picking up bits and pieces from court there. But what else do we know about these charges? In addition to the home invasion.
I'm right there with you, Kira. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hard to hear what was happening from court, although we do know what the charges here are based on a newly filed criminal complaint in Michigan that is sort of documenting what Moore is charged with here. As you said, there's 3 crimes, 1 felony and 2 misdemeanors. I'm going to read out to you what they are. The first count of felony home invasion in the 3rd degree, saying he did break in or enter without permission into that home there while the person was present. That carries up to 5 years or a $2,000 fine. Here, count 2, stalking in a domestic relationship. That is a misdemeanor there, carrying 1 year and or up to 5 years probation. Count 3, breaking and entering illegal entry in a domestic relationship. That is also a misdemeanor here. But critically here, this document, Kira, saying that this was all related to, quote, an individual with whom the defendant has or had a dating relationship with. So again, the first look at charges here in what had been quite a mysterious case since that firing and arrest. I also would point out that from the images we're seeing on the screen there, it does not seem like Moore was present in the courtroom, but rather appearing virtually. So critically here to see how this shakes out. But again, the first look at charges there from a criminal complaint, that stalking and breaking and entering charge, Kira.
Got it. So, Brian, as you're reading the charges and we're learning more information, what does it look like to you that he, well, the allegations, the reason why he was fired from the university is they say he was having a relationship with this staffer. He is married. He has kids. And then it sounds like possibly after he was fired, he allegedly went over to the apartment of this staffer he was having a relationship with, and according to the charges here, broke into that apartment, grabbed some knives out of the kitchen drawer, butter knives, it looks like, according to what was just said there in court. And then something happened between the two. She apparently called the police, and now he's also being charged with 2 misdemeanors of stalking in a domestic relationship and breaking and entering. So where does the case go from here, Brian? What do you make of all this?
Yeah, so Kira, there are actually a number of moving pieces here. I would expect, based one, on the nature of the allegations, that he said he was going to harm himself or harm others, and also the way this arraignment is operating. I don't know how Michigan operates, but I would imagine that he's in some form of protective custody because he did make an allegation of harming himself. And so the officers and correction officers who are in that facility, whether it be a jail or somewhere else, are going to make sure that he stays safe. When we talk about these crimes, we'll just put this in layman's term. Home invasion, very similar to burglary, as they may call it in other states, is simply breaking into someone's home and then committing a crime or having an intent to commit the crime. So the home invasion here in the third degree, which is actually the lowest in Michigan, is breaking into someone's home to commit a misdemeanor. That misdemeanor being stalking. I'm also interested in the fact of what they're going to learn more from talking to the alleged victim in this case, because when you talk about pulling out knives and scissors to that effect, but I don't see them borne out in any charges or allegations, I would imagine that there might be more charges coming down the line. Now, I'm reading the same complaints that I believe Olivia's reading as well. One thing that I noticed, not signed by the complainant. Now, that could be simply because what we're seeing as the public, we're not seeing a signature, but a big thing the prosecution needs to do is get the alleged victim to sign the complaint in order for this to go forward, and then we may see more going on. Of course, at this arraignment, they're going to determine whether or not bail should be set or he should be released on his own recognizance. I imagine some amount of bail will be set, but he might have the funds to be able to get out and fight this case on the outside rather than the inside.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dip back in and listen, Brian, Olivia, and I'll bring you guys back in. We now are seeing 3 pictures here from inside the courtroom. Also, you can see Michigan's former coach there, Sherrone Moore, where he's being held in a small room. And then I'll try and figure out who is the other person in the 3-way there. We'll figure it out. Let's listen in.
And also, Your Honor, if my client is to order to a GPS tether, things have to happen pretty significantly to try to get that in place in time for what we hope to be his release today. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, could you state your name, please?
Sherrone Moore.
Sir, you are not to use alcohol, marijuana, or any other controlled substance that is not prescribed to you. You are not to possess or purchase a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You are not to engage in criminal conduct of any kind whatsoever. You may not leave the state of Michigan without permission of the court. Prior to your release, you will be placed on a GPS tether. You will not be released before that GPS tether is placed upon you. You must continue all mental health treatment as a condition of your bond. The named victim in this case will not be placed on the record, but you may not have contact with that individual. That means no calling, no writing, no video chatting, no texting, no emailing, or any other form of contact the human mind can possibly fathom. No one in the world thinks that this person is going to reach out to you. Should they do so, and again, no one thinks that they're going to, you may not reply in any form or fashion. The named victim's address will not be placed on the record, but you may not go to that location for any reason whatsoever. Are we understood on the no contact and no go to, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you have any questions about that, you have a good attorney, simply ask them. You understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Bond will be set in the amount of $25,000 cash surety, as requested by the prosecution's office. This court does not determine innocence or guilt. This court determines flight risk and community safety. The court finds with these conditions in place, it has been met. Mr. Simon, we are setting probable cause conference at this time for January 8th due to the holidays and scheduling. Is that a good court date for you?
Your Honor, my client will waive his right to have that next court appearance within 14 days. I discussed that with him. I also tried to coordinate calendars with Ms. Rasmirski. In support of that, I think we're both available on January 22nd, if the court would order that. And I'll add one more thing for the record in support of that. I understand there is continuing investigation. So in addition to the discovery I don't yet have, there may be even more. So
it will be January 26th, 2020.
22nd, 22nd,
Thursday.
January 22nd, then. January 22nd, 2026, 9 a.m., 14A1 District Court, Courtroom C. That will be in person. Sir, do not violate these bond conditions. Follow all orders of the court. Stay in contact with your lawyer. That concludes this hearing.
Thank you very much.
All right, as we watch these live pictures, I want to bring in, if we could keep these pictures up, Brian Buckmeyer, do we have any idea who these other two women are? I know I'm just kind of might be throwing a curveball, but just trying to figure out who the other players are in this live event.
Excuse me while I kind of look. I got screen here. Someone look to this. Top right corner looks to me like someone in a jail facility. Who that may be, I don't know. I can narrow it down to someone who might have interviewed Moore and then evaluate his risk assessment for flight, and they may have spoken, maybe from like a probation office or somewhere like that. When the hearing seemed to be done, we saw another woman pop up in the bottom. I didn't see her contribute in any way. I can't really see her background, so I can't speak to who that person would be. But I would imagine, again, top right, someone in the jail system who is speaking about potential flight risk.
Got it. Okay. It looks like maybe the other one that popped up was a prosecutor. So, okay, let's just kind of back up because this all happened live, and we just dipped in to listen to find out more about Sherrone Moore and what's next for him. If you're just tuning in, we were following the court proceeding for fired Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore, now being charged with 3 crimes, 2 misdemeanors and a felony. The felony is home invasion. The 2 misdemeanors, stalking in a domestic relationship and breaking and entering. And it looks like he's going to be out on $25,000 bail. He'll have a GPS tether. The judge reading him all instructions that he cannot go, out of the area. No booze, no alcohol. He's got to keep up with mental health treatment. He cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. So just from you were listening and gathering all the details as well, Brian, are you surprised that, considering what happened here, that that the judge is letting him out on bond?
Not surprised at all. I understand a lot of the cases that we follow are high-profile murder or sexual assault types of cases. And while this does have very serious allegations, we are talking about home invasion in the 3rd degree. This would be the lowest level of home invasion the state of Michigan has. This is a person of means, and the way that Michigan operates when it comes to the bail system is highly dependent on cash. Some would argue that causes an imbalance in the system for those who do not have. But this is a former Michigan coach, and so he does have the means. That's why you're hearing a lot of them talk about, when you do get out, you will have a monitored tether. When you do get out, you have to abstain from certain items like alcohol and substance abuse. And if he does violate those, he can actually be brought back into jail, potentially have a higher amount of bond or bail, or not be released at all. The other thing that I would point out, too, is in Michigan, like many other states, they created this date, this probable cause hearing or date of January 8th that they need to have this hearing beforehand. But it's very interesting that the defense waived that date and instead pushed it back. What that suggests to me is that he already has the money lined up, that he is going to get released sometime soon, and they can wait a couple more days to prepare and do a probable cause hearing later on in the month of January.
Got it. Okay. So, and just to follow up, because, if someone has been a victim of domestic violence, they could be watching this thinking, Judge, why are you letting this guy go on a GPS tether, and why aren't you keeping him locked up? Because we heard the accusations that he broke into the apartment of this staffer he was apparently having an affair with, that he grabbed butter knives in out of the drawer, threatened to take his own life. Not quite sure what threats were made towards her, but she called 911. He's accused of stalking in a domestic relationship, also breaking and entering. What's the thought process here? Why aren't they keeping him behind bars?
So it's a matter of competing interest here, right? And I understand and appreciate all of them. I think the one you're highlighting now is that of the alleged victim. The fear that someone who makes a report like this is going to have when they find out that that person can, in fact, post bail or bond or whatever it may be and simply be out. But I would highlight that he does have an ankle monitoring. Many police departments, especially those large police departments, I know more specifically about the NYPD, they may have a system where they have officers who might drive by the location of where that alleged victim lives to make sure that that suspect is not showing up. I can tell you, as a defense attorney here in New York, many times my clients have been caught because the police are doing a great job of making sure that victim is safe and making sure their house is protected, and you catch that person. So there are safeguards there that the district attorney and police department will do. But the competing interest is also the presumption of innocence, that a defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty or unless proven guilty, and their freedom should be able to be given that. And in this country, we commit to this system where, you know what, we are going to have this kind of carrot and stick. The stick being that you will get punished more severely if you violate these conditions that we heard from the judge, and the carrot being that we will give you liberty at some of these lower level crimes so long as you're on the hook, so to speak, with property or money, because we believe that will guarantee their appearance. The judge even highlighted he's not determining guilt or innocence, he's determining flight risk later on in the proceedings of this case and potentially a trial, then they'll determine guilt or innocence.
Got it. All right. And just, a little bit about Sherrone Moore, 39 years old, 2 seasons as head coach for the University of Michigan, was coming off back-to-back winning seasons with the Wolverines. Also, we should point out that he has been in trouble before. He served a 2-game suspension as part of a self-imposed sanctions for NCAA violations related to Michigan's sign stealing scandal, which came to light in 2023. And now it looks like he is being charged with 1 felony charge, 2 misdemeanors from home invasion to stalking to breaking and entering. He will be out on $25,000 bail tied to a GPS tether and needs to seek counseling.